So what is a margin account? How to use a margin account with Questrade, the benefits of a margin account, the risks with a margin account. So while I'm waiting for the Amex checks to arrive so I can take a balance transfer from my Amex at 3% interest rate per year, I'm looking into trading with a margin account with Questrade, of course. So I decided to do a video explaining how a margin account works. With a margin account, you're borrowing money from the broker to trade. Any profits you make with the borrowed money is yours, but obviously you have to return the borrowed money to Questrade plus interest. So I'm sure you've noticed when you come to open an account, you'll notice you always have the choice of a margin. You always have the choice of a margin account, a TFSA, an RRSP, etc. So a margin account will have to be a non-registered account. You can't open a margin account under a TFSA or an RRSP. That means that a margin account, since it's going to be in a non-registered account, that means any gains you make will be taxable. Now, if it's a capital gain, it's going to be 50% of that gain will be added to your income, and then that'll be taxed in the tax bracket that you're in, depending on your total income. If you're day trading in a margin account, then 100% of your gains will go into your income and will be taxed depending on your bracket. If you're collecting dividends in a margin account, well, then dividends have their own tax rules. So that part sucks, the fact that a margin account has to be in a non-registered account, so you're going to be taxed on the gains that you make in a margin account. So the best way to explain it really is with several examples. So let's start first with the amount that you can borrow from Questrade will depend on the type of stock you buy. So as you can see here, there's a small table here, says, so any stock selling under $1.50, margin requirement is 100%. So what does this margin requirement mean? Basically, all you have to do is to find out what the margin requirement, to find out how much you can get from Questrade, you take your cash balance, you take the balance that's actually yours, and you divide it by the percentage of the margin requirement. So for example, a stock, and that'll give you how much total buying power you have. So for example, for a stock that gives you 30% margin requirement, that means that if you had $1,000, if you want to find out how much what would be your total buying power, including the borrowed amount. So you're going to take your 1,000, you're going to divide it by 30%. So divided by 0.3, you have 3,333. So that's the total amount that you can buy with, but it includes your $1,000. So that means Questrade actually lent you 2,333. So $1,000 is yours, and $2,333 is borrowed money on which you're going to be paying interest. And that's for a stock that meets the 30% margin requirement, as you can see here. A stock that meets the 50% margin requirement, like stocks selling at $2 or more, then in that case, we're going to take $1,000, for example, if that's our cash balance, divided by 0.5, which is 50%, and that's going to give us $2,000. So that means $1,000 is ours and $1,000 is borrowed money. That's our total buying power. At 60% margin requirement, you're going to take 1,000 divided by 0.6. Your total buying power would be 1,666. So that means Questrade lent you $666 on your $1,000. So for every dollar, they gave you 66 cents. At 50%, for every dollar, they give you $1. At 30%, for every dollar, they give you $2.33. At 80% margin requirement, 1,000 divided by 0.8. So they're giving you $250. So not really worth it to use an extra 25% to trade with, right? And that's if you buy a stock trading between $1.50 and $1.74. So as you can see, the riskier the stock, the less they'll give you. So $2 or more, they'll give you 1 for 1. So for every dollar you put in, they'll give you another $1. And for certain stocks, I'm not sure which ones they are yet. For certain stocks, they'll give you, for every dollar, they'll give you $2.33. Logically, it'll be stocks that are less risky. So now the advantage of trading with margin is, of course, you're trading with more money. So let's say you had $1,000 and you wanted to buy Facebook, which is at, let's say 100, which is trading at 150, let's say, and then you sell it at $200. So $200 divided by 150 is 33%, but you only put in $1,000, which is your money, times your 1,000. So you would have made a profit of $333. So on $1,000, you made a profit of $333 if if you bought Facebook at 150 and sold it at 200. Now, if you had bought this on margin, and let's say Facebook falls in the 30% margin requirement, and so instead of trading with $1,000, you would have $3,333 to trade with. And let's say you bought in the same scenario. So you bought Facebook at 200, sold it on 150, so that's going to give you a 33% profit times your $3,333 that you were trading with. So you made a profit of 1,111. So you made a profit of 1,111, but only $1,000, but you only invested with $1,000. So your return on your money is actually 1,111 divided by 1,000. So your return is actually 111% instead of just 33%. But the money that you borrowed, which was $2,333, you paid back to Questrade plus a little bit of interest. The profits that you made using the borrowed amount is yours. So your cash plus profits, whether it comes from your cash balance or profits coming from the borrowed amount, cash plus all the profits are yours. The borrowed amount you have to pay back plus interest. So in this scenario, you'd be making way more profit than if you had just invested your $1,000. So that's the beauty of the margin account, is that you don't have to put up much of your money to make more profit. But obviously it comes with the risk. So the opposite is also true. What if Facebook drops instead of going up to 200? What happens in that case? So what usually happens is the broker will place a margin call on your account. So what is a margin call? Basically, a margin call means you have to pay back the amount you borrowed, or else they will force sell your positions or force liquidate your positions for you in order to get their money back. So when do they place a margin call? So basically, as soon as the total balance in your account is less than the amount you took from them, they're going to start to worry and they're going to start to want their money back, and then they're going to place a margin call on your account. So let's look at an example. So we're going to take the example of the 30% margin requirement. So the 30% margin requirement here. So you put in $1,000 in your account, cash, that's your money. You want to buy a stock that falls in the 30% margin requirement. You'd be allowed, your buying power would be 1,000. Your buying power would be 1,000 divided by 0.3, divided by 30%. So your buying power is $3,333. You buy a stock at $10, and then the next day it's trading at $15. So the value of your holdings, it won't be 3,333 anymore, it'll be 50% more. So the value of your position will be $5,000. If you decide to sell, your profit will be 5,000 minus the 3,333. So your profit will be 1,666. But you only put in 1,000. So your return on investment is actually 166%. Now, you sold your position, you have $5,000. You pay back Questrade the $2,333 that you took plus interest, and you keep the profits of 1,666. So you keep your 1,000 and you keep the profits. Now, let's say instead of the stock going up to 15, it goes to 5. So in the example of a 30% margin requirement, let's say you buy a stock at $10. So the total value is 3,333, but then the stock drops to $8. So your total value right now will be 2,666. But remember, you borrowed 2,333. So in this case, they wouldn't place a margin call because they're still able to get their 2,333. It's still here available in the total value. But you would have lost $700 of your $1,000 in this case. Now let's see what happens if the stock drops to 7. So if the stock drops to 7, that's when they'll start placing a margin call, because anything lower than that, they can't recover their $2,333 that they borrowed. And in that case, you lose 100% of your money. You lose the $1,000. So if it drops to 6, then for sure they're going to execute the margin call, because your total value is 2,000 and they gave you 2,333. So they can't recover all their money. So before it even drops to 6, they're probably going to place a margin call to force sell your position so that they can get their money back, or give you a chance to fund the account to recover the losses. So let's say it drops to 6 the next day. So you're down so you owe them 300. So they have $2,000 in your account, but so you have 300. So you're missing $333 to pay the rest of your debt. So they're going to give you a chance to fund the account by $333 to pay the rest of the debt, or else they're going to force sell the positions. So basically, when you trade on margin with a stock that has a 30% margin requirement, you basically hope that the stock doesn't drop more than the 30% of the margin required. So basically, if you buy a stock at $10 and you use a margin account, you really hope that it doesn't drop below 30%. So if it doesn't drop below $7, in that case, they will never place a margin call. So the more money you borrow, the riskier it is, and the less space of error you have, because you can only afford to be down by 30%. Anything more than that, then you have to start paying back, or they will force sell your position. If we look at an example of a 50% margin requirement, so you put $1,000, they will give you $1,000. They will lend you $1,000, so you've got a total buying power of $2,000. You buy a stock at $10, it reaches 15, total value is 3,000. So you traded with 2,000, you bought a stock at $10, you sold at $15, so basically it's a 50% gain. You end up with $3,000, but because you only put in $1,000, your gain is actually 100%. Instead of being 50%, it's actually 100%. Because after repaying the debt of $1,000, you're left with $2,000. So you just doubled your money in that case. So you just made 100%. So instead of, in a normal scenario, if it was just a cash account, you would have made $500 profit. So your 1,000 would become 1,500. But in this case, you made a $1,000 profit. So your 1,000 became $2,000 because you leveraged the broker's money. You borrowed $1,000 from the broker. You traded, you invested it, you turned it into $1,500. So that $500 profit that you made from the borrowed money is yours. The $1,000, you give it back to the broker plus interest. So you have your cash balance that you started with, $1,000. You have the profit on your cash, and you have the profit on the borrowed money. So basically, trading with margin allows you to increase your profit potential, but it also has the risk of increasing your loss potential, and always by the same amount. So at a 50% margin requirement, you'd be doubling your profit, but you could also be doubling your losses. At a 30% margin requirement, you'd be tripling your profits, but you could also be tripling your losses. So in the example of the 50% margin requirement, when would they place a margin call? When would they force sell your positions if you can't pay it back? So basically, if the stock drops to 7, you borrowed $1,000 for them, the total value of your position is $1,400, so you're still fine. They're not getting a forced sell because you still have more than the borrowed amount. If it goes to 6, you're at $1,200, you're still fine. If you go to 5, which is 50%, which happens to be the same 50% margin requirement, you're down to $1,000. So that's when they will start placing a margin call, because they might lose their $1,000 that they gave you. So either they'll ask you to fund the account, and if you can't fund the account, they're gonna have to force sell your positions so that they can retrieve their money back. So basically, if you buy a stock at $10 and you're confident that it's not going to drop more than 50%, then it's not that risky. Obviously, you never know how much a stock will drop, but you can be close. So, I mean, for example, if you buy Facebook right now at 150, if it is a 30% margin requirement stock, I'm not sure if it's a 30% or a 50%, but if Facebook is a 30% margin requirement, so if you buy Facebook at $150 with margin, and it's a stock that falls in the 30% margin requirement, you are safe as long as the stock doesn't drop below 105. Because as soon as it hits 105, total value is $2,333, which is the amount you borrowed. So basically, if you're confident that Facebook is not going to drop below 105, then trading on margin account in this situation is rather safe. Any gains you make, any upside you make, you basically tripled your profit instead of just making one for one. If Facebook falls in the 50% margin requirement stock, as long as Facebook doesn't drop below 75, then you're safe. The broker won't place a marginal call on your account. You don't have to fund any losses. So basically, that's how it works. That's how a margin account works. You borrow money from the broker to make profit on the borrowed money. So you're making profit on money that's not yours. So you're basically increasing your chances of making more profit. And then once you sell your stock, once you sell your position, you pay back the borrowed money. You keep the profits on the borrowed money and obviously the profits on your cash amount. And you pay a little bit of interest to the broker. All right, so I hope this video was useful. If you want me to re-explain it, if it wasn't clear, if you want more examples, leave them in the comments below. I'll gladly make another video. So yeah, so I'm thinking of opening a margin account right now while I'm waiting for the Amex checks to arrive. I'm a little bit disappointed that it's a margin account has to be in a non-registered account, so that means my gains will be taxable. But I mean, if you're making double or triple your profits, it could be worth it. And the interest rate, I forgot to mention the interest rate. So the interest rate that you'd be paying is about, all Canadian non-registered accounts is about 4 plus 3. So it's about 8% interest rate per year. So you'd be paying about 8% interest rate per year only on the borrowed amount, and obviously only when you're using the borrowed amount. So when you're actually in a position. But once you sell, you're no longer using the money. So you're only paying interest while you're using the borrowed amount. So let's say you borrowed $2,333 and you bought a stock and sold it in 3 months. So you only used the $2,333 for 3 months. So the interest you'd be paying on that is, so that's $186. That's for the whole year, divided by 12 for every month, times 3. So you'd be paying around $50 interest on $2,333 of borrowed money. But if you made an extra profit of, in the example we took, if you made an extra profit of $1,000, you're not going to mind paying $46 of interest. So that's the cost for the potential of making more profit. All right, so please, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Like always, if you're going to open an account with Questrade, use my referral code in the description below the video so we can both get between $25 and $250, depending on your initial deposit for the first 90 days. Probably going to do another video how to open an account, how to open a margin account with Questrade, since I'm going to open one myself. It'll be coming soon. Be on a lookout. Thanks for watching.